There you
All right, I'm sorry.
go. No worries, no worries. Oh, but now you gotta go back there because you gotta share screen. Just pick that one. Oh, yeah, that's fine. I think it's shared.
All right. All right, well, good morning, everybody. My name is Preston Smith.
I'm Jack Lacy. Marcus Hillstrom. Matt Cole.
And with that, we are PJM squared. We are working on the 127 Quincy Street project. So for a brief overview, we're going to go over the scope of work. That's going to include 3 different aspects, but any and all construction management. We're going to go over some hindrances as well as some unforeseen conditions that we may face while on the job. Some known standards that we do have, as well as some existing conditions. We're going to go over our design as well as a summary of our final design with our estimate, schedule, and time for questions. So, like I said, the scope of work consists of 3 different projects, basically. So what we're going to be working on is the roof. We're going to be working on the front facade, which includes the antique shop and tattoo parlor. And then we'll be doing the interior design of the antique shop itself. One thing I should have said right off the bat is this is located right in downtown Hancock in the city. So in terms of our existing conditions, we really didn't have much to go on. One of the things we had to deal with was going out to the city of Hancock and only having this one floor plan. So we were able to get an RFI out to Megan Zanovich, our owner, and we were able to get an inspection report. With that inspection report, that kind of had all of our everything we needed for existing conditions, but the big thing we had also was doing the site visit where we took measurements and got kind of the layout of the buildings themselves. So like I said, existing conditions, this included everything from siding, windows, the interior, front facade, roof. We were also able to get access to other parts of the building, basement, see piping, the second floor, see other rooms and other things for the scope of work. So the one thing that's going to be like the main theme about the front facade as well as the roof is that everything's very weather beaten. One thing we see here is the siding on the left. There's a lot of cracking. The paint's gone all from all the snow up here. It's a pretty big deal. If you look on the right here, you'll see this kind of boarded up region. The picture really doesn't do it justice, but this used to be part of the front facade where it was all glass. A car actually went through it. So that's part of something that we're going to be talking about later in a couple of slides about what we plan to do with that and how it's going to affect our estimate. Windows also very weather beaten. You see they're very old. Couldn't even tell you how old they actually are. But if you look, everything's chipped, paint's gone. It's not looking too hot. Now the interior of the antique shop itself. One thing with this is we discovered lead paint. That's something that I was also given in the inspection report. And we're going to talk about unforeseen conditions as well. This is an older picture. The person that was living or renting this place was actually living in it. And this is kind of a situation where you have a lot of clutter, a lot of stuff. So possibility of fire hazards. We were able to see the interior with all of this gone. So we were able to kind of get a layout of the floor plan a little bit better. Now the roof, that's something that's going to have to be renovated. Like I said, weather beaten. If you look, there's nails popping out, just kind of damages throughout the years. So now the front facade of the building, this is kind of going to be one of our biggest things and one of the biggest things we're going to talk about with our estimate and schedule. If you look, there's a lot of cracking down where the concrete is below. I'm going to say it again, weather beaten. The windows need to be replaced. Siding as well, stuff like that. Now, like I said, project hindrances and unforeseen conditions. One thing that we're going to have to look at, such as lead paint that we talked about, but is also asbestos. With the demolition that we plan on doing with our project, there could be some things that we don't see, such as asbestos, and that's something that we put into our estimate and account for.
So this is just a little summary / overview of some of the design parameters that we had to work with throughout working on this project. And by far the largest restriction that we do have for working on the Quincy Street project is our $40,000 budget. And this is made up of 2 City of Hancock grants. Each are $10,000, where the owner puts up another $10,000. And they have a bunch of requirements attached to these, but it is a matching program to allow for owners to improve the building. The general idea is to improve downtown Hancock just for the general public's use. Some of these requirements is it has to be in a historical or cultural area of the city, and we have to be able to show how the building is improved through some sort of CAD model beforehand. On top of that, one of the design parameters that we had to look into was the very short construction season that we have up here. Winter is very long. We don't want to be doing roofing or siding during those times. And on top of that, contractors are very picky with what work they do during what times. A lot of contractors don't like to do interiors during the summer. They're saving that work for the winter most of the time. Taking that into consideration, with the budget we have, we want to do some work on the roof, replace it. We want to remove the siding and put new siding on as well, along with the windows, stone facing, and do some work on the interior of the antique shop. This is going to easily be a money sink, and we have an explanation to where we're going to put that money into in the future.
So this slide is showing the first Revit rendering of the new design of the building. And on the left side here, I press to mention someone smashed through the building. I don't show it, but we're just gonna extend the siding right there due to our limited budget. And due to the fact that we have very limited existing plans of the building, we had to go on site and use a tape and measure to measure everything out, and then sketch it on paper and bring it back and put it into Revit, as you can see here. And as you can see, we're having that new stone facade with the new siding, and then also new and updated windows. This just shows another rendering of that same front of the building. Revit has different settings you could switch to change the lighting and whatnot. This just shows what it will look like in different light. This slide shows the entrance of the antique shop. It's just a closer shot of what it will look like in the future. And this is the interior of the antique shop. And we didn't mention yet, but before we did this model, there are 2 radiators, one on either side of the stairs. And they're just in an awkward spot. And that's the only heating source in the whole building of the antique shop. So what we're deciding to do is run heating pipes from that spot where they currently are to the side of the room, and run new baseboards along each side of the room. Slide here. So this is just another shot of the interior of the antique shop. And as you can see, there's a new drop-down ceiling we added there. And the upsides to a drop-down ceiling, it's gonna be very similar to one in this room. It'll be very convenient for running new lights. We'll have 2x2 lights in the room, but we don't really know what the antique shop is going to be used for in the future, because they now moved out. So we kind of have to design the whole building based off of anyone can move in and use that space. So perhaps it'll be an office and we need to run wiring, and that will be the most convenient way to do that, or say cubicle or something along those lines. This is just showing a shot of the antique shop looking out. That's
One thing too that we kind of look back on, and we realized we kind of made a mistake on, was ADA compliancy. So with this antique shop, one thing is you see the stairs, kind of believe we're going to kind of switch over to a more of a ramp style, make it easier for people that are in that situation. So.
And as per the project requirements, we had to find some codes that our contractors are going to be dealing with throughout the scope of work. So this is what we found. It's obviously, you gotta deal with the building codes, mechanical codes, plumbing codes, electrical, etc.
Oh, I didn't see that. Right.
That's good for that one. And then over the weeks, our client and I, or us, went back and forth on some material choices. So we're briefly gonna go over what materials that we chose to do all this work with. For the exterior, which is the siding, the stone facade, the new energy efficient windows, and then also the material that will be included with the interior of the antique shop.
So for the windows for this project, we went with Anderson windows. They are very high quality and have a great reputation. These particular windows have a U value of 0.3. And the two different types of windows we went with is a model 200 series picture window for the front of the antique shop on the lower levels. And then for the upper levels, there's actually apartments there, and they need to have access to open the windows, perhaps for air conditioning and things of that nature. So we and the client talked through it, and she wants double hung windows. We went with the 400 series Woodwright double hung window.
For the stone facade, our client was very particular. She wanted real stone. So we went with the MSI natural quartzite slate. It's like a thin puzzle piece panel that just kind of sticks to the front of the building. She wanted to keep it a color that's common up here. So we went with the natural earth. It matches most of the finished style buildings in the area. Also, for the rest of the outside facade, we went with the siding, just a general vinyl tan, which pairs nicely with the stone.
So for the interior of the antique shop, we went with Duration Home from Sherwin-Williams. It's a very high quality, durable paint. It's also washable. It'll last a long time compared to cheaper paints. Another thing that we didn't mention in this presentation is the previous owners were smokers and they smoked inside the building. So it has a bad smell to it. So we'll have to use a primer in which covers that smell up, because that'll stick in the walls if you don't do something like that. And then for the drop down ceiling, we went with the USG brand ceilings. And as previously mentioned, they're 2x2 radar, or 2x2 squares like the ones in this room. Just a white square edge laying ceiling tile.
For the flooring, we wanted to kind of match the same colors as the exterior. So we went with a Home Decorators collection in the Go Ship maple color. As you can see, it's a laminate flooring, which will last quite a while, especially with heavy foot traffic, depending on what the space will be used for. The lighting we went with was Superior Lighting. They're 2x2 LED flat panels, so they'll fit directly up into our new drop-down ceiling. And then for the heating, like we already said, we were going to replace those old industrial radiators with a new hydronic baseboard along the outside.
So this is just a look at the bottom line that comes off the roof estimate. Some of the major things that added cost to this part of the project would be the labor and disposal, the removal of the shingles that we're taking off. And then a lot of the materials, just because commodity prices and labor prices are up. Things like Dyson water shield, the new underlayment, and the new asphalt shingles are going to be a little more expensive. And we had to add on to that with RS means because it's not quite up to date yet, along with just like using common sense with our work in like the field from before. And if that fails, Google, like there's plenty of information out there. And we came down to the final cost of the roof replacement being about $15,500. And this, out of all three parts of the project, is going to be the most affordable, I would say the most necessary, and therefore should be done out of all of them under budget. Moving on to the front facade part of the estimate, we want to do this right after the roof. One thing to note is the antique shop part of this is significantly more expensive than the tattoo parlor, mainly because it has a much higher square footage because of that extra wall on the side of it. Some major cost points we have are the new vinyl siding and replacing the storefront with facade with like stone and new windows, which are it's more specialized labor, more specialized materials. Those are going to be fairly expensive. And we're looking at a total of about 27, rounding up to $28,000 for this. Still within the budget if you bid it separately from the roof, but we're looking at the point where we're gonna have to start picking and choosing what we really want to do with the budget, because this project has the potential to become a real money sink after a bit. And then finally, the most expensive part of this project, if the owner wants to do it, she might need a larger budget. The interior estimate, we're looking at a lot of plumbing, electrical, lighting, drop down ceiling. These are all specialized trays that you need to pull in and then have inspectors come in and check everything. No, we're looking at a cost of about $53,000 here, which is over budget. We wanted to provide the estimate on this anyway, just so the owner has the information. I know she has a $40,000 budget, but the goal is to give her a number of options to do with the money that she has. And then if she can raise more money for this project, she still has a planning to do with that money what she can. All right, moving on to our schedule overview. We have our schedule broken up into 3 distinct phases. After talking to the owner, she wants us to start on the roof and then move on to siding and the interior. And we do agree with this. It's a lot safer and risk adverse to work on the roof first, top down. Because if you're removing shingles and doing stuff on the roof, you won't damage the siding at a later date if it's a new siding and you're doing demo on the roof. But once we complete that, we want to move on to the siding and then wrap it up with the interior. This is supposed to be semi-modular because we have the interior starting work some point in June. But we understand that a lot of contractors up here won't even do work on interiors during the summer, just because they want to do the maximum amount of work throughout the year and they can't do exteriors during the summer. So this is a more in-depth breakdown of the roofing schedule. We want to start mobilization on May 2nd, which is coming up here real soon. We're going to start with roofing demo, rough carpentry, install a drip edge, roof flashing, and then wrap it up with a roof inspection. And the second that we get enough spacing in to start working on siding safely, we don't want workers working on the siding at the same time as we're doing demo on the roof. That would just be unsafe. Stuff's falling down or has the potential to fall down. You want stuff to fall down. We want 2 crews working on this because of the limited nature of our construction season up here. One thing I'd like to add about all the exterior stuff, or even the interior stuff for that matter, is we added a lot of extra time for a lot of everything, just because we don't know what's under a lot of this stuff. We could find asbestos. We already know there's lead paint. We could find, frankly, termites maybe. Anything's possible on this project, and we just added a lot of extra time on our schedule just so it doesn't surprise us and we aren't going to lose money due to some sort of bottleneck that we come across. We pull up the like we pull down drywall or siding, we just find crippling rot of the little bit structure. And then moving on to the interior schedule, like I said, we want to do this originally June 9th to July 29th. But this could be bid for October or January or February. No problem, you just push it back on there and it would all be bid separately. But we want to open up with interior prep once we get the building. The only real prerequisite for all this is that the building is weatherproofed again, once we start doing demo. So we want to open up with interior prep and demo around June 9th, and then start working on all our utility stuff, whether it's plumbing, electrical, or heating for that matter. Fix the insulation, any carpentry damage that was done to water, put up the drywall, and then start working on, we'll get some inspectors there first, work on the drop down ceiling, lighting, and then have a cleanup at the end. That concludes everything. Are there any questions?
Any questions from the audience?
Andre, you got any questions?
Yeah, actually, I got one. In your model design, it was hard to tell, but I know that in a lot of downtown buildings in Hancock in our local area, there's a lot of awnings that are like falling down, kind of not really up to style and dates and stuff. It looked like your model had one. Was there were you planning on putting an awning on the front of your building or?
No, we did not plan on doing that. If anything, I think it would be the demolition of that, and we have siding just straight to the finished style material that we chose.
Is there awning on the previous, on the?
There's a short one.
Fell off, I believe. Yeah, it's not
Yeah,
there.
we'll go back to.
What's left of one?
Yeah, I can
It's
go
just,
back
it's
to
a
that.
little roof that sticks out through.
Yeah, it's, yeah.
You see the breakaway. tears.
Yeah, it used to have one, but it rotted out.
So, can you go to your markup slide?
For the estimate?
Yeah.
Okay.
How'd you calculate your markups for each individual one? Is it?
So, yeah, that's something we don't have on our slides per se, because just for time's sake, but we do have a lot of details in here, like using, like I said, RS means our own experiences and, you know, having to, you know, just search it.
So markup was a 10% markup on materials.
Oh, I apologize, that's okay.
Yeah, a lot of times contract, that's what the
Yeah.
markup is the materials. And that's where that comes from. And then contingency is totaled into the total cost. 10% markup on that as well.
I was just a little bit confused. You said 10% and total facade is 26,000, and then your markup only 1,200. It kind of just doesn't add up.
No, right, okay, so. Oh, I see what you're saying.
We'd have to look at the estimate.
A little bit off.
Yes.
You have all the math.
We have all the
We'll talk to the math kid.
It's not that, that's not that far. Contractors gotta make a little extra money anyways, right? Anybody else have any questions? All right, well, nice work on that.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
They were doing this side, so.
That's why we gotta leave last night. 26 hours.
Driver or what?